Okay, so here we are with Wayne's personal 1984 Seville, right, Wayne? Where else?
It's a 1984, yes.
And what are some of the distinguishing features over time? The wire wheel covers changed, the grill changed a little bit, I think. The tail lamp treatment.
Well, when we the first year with the car, we had a chrome cap that came up over the hood and then tied into the molding, and that was to disguise the Eldorado hood, which came out in '79. And then we had a different grille texture that was, I think it was more vertically oriented and maybe not as dense as this one is. And that's about it for the front. Actually, between 1980 and 85, those are probably the only two things that changed. And we might have used this grille for a couple of years too. I think maybe in '82 and then again in '84.
Got it. And then this is what I was talking about in the video. It has this firm crease that goes all the way up the A-pillar, and then
Yes.
really interesting here. I can't think of other cars of the era that had this kind of kinked, creased A-pillar that goes around the roof.
Well, I think the Eldorado would have had it,
Fair, yes.
and I'm not sure about the Riviera Tornado.
I'll have to look.
One interesting thing while we're talking about this area, we were looking at, back then, and this car still got it too, it's got a rain gutter,
Yeah.
so that when you're getting out of the car, you don't get wet. You're going to get wet anyway, but you won't have all this extra water coming off.
Right.
The water will come down here and flow to the lowest point. Well, what we were looking at was a section here in the Eldorado that would be shared with this car, and it would have a depression that would come back up, and then that would be the rain gutter.
Integrated into the sheet metal.
Into the sheet metal, stamped in the sheet metal. Well, anyway, they had one of the engineers bring over, they made up a section out of steel, sheet steel, and it was wide enough to where they could pour water on it and then see how it, would work. And then he sat in the car, and I guess he was sitting in a car like this to see how it would work, and somebody put water on it, and then the water came and it just dropped right on his pants.
It worked just as intended, right?
Yes.
This car it doesn't look it because of that drip rail, but it has the frameless door glass, as well.
Does. Yeah, it's hardtop construction.
Was that something that designers tend to prefer, or was it just Fisher body?
Yeah, it's just a better look.
The interior on this, like you can see, it has all these Cadillac logos,
Yes.
all in the, well, it says Seville there, I guess, and in the leather here on the steering wheel. Yours has the Bose radio too, which gave you the speakers in the back
Yes, it does.
package shelf,
Yes.
which was an early adoption. I think '83 might have been the first year for the Bose radio.
I think so.
It doesn't even say Bose, it says Symphony Sound, but it was done by
It's Bose.
Bose, yeah. It's a neat instrument panel theme too. This
Yeah,
deep hood.
I love the whole interior of this. I think Drew Hare and his team really did a fantastic job.
And to your point, it is a really rich door panel with real cut and sew here.
Yes. Yeah, and it's soft. It's not hard plasticky. Even though this is plastic and it's got the stitches embossed, it's still soft. It just feels rich.
Yours has the Guidematic headlamp dimmer and the Twilight Sentinel as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, for those who don't know, automatic headlamp dimming. It senses when an oncoming car is coming and will dim the bright lights for you automatically.
Right.
And the Twilight Sentinel turns them on
Mm-hmm.
when when it gets dark.
It's an interesting little part here. This was to, I recall Drew told me that they had 2 or 3 different widths of these. And it's like a shim. And it attaches to the bottom of the top cover, or the IP cover. And that was to make up the gap between when the door, because of the build, the variations in build.
So in the factory they would have different lengths of this?
Well,
that's clever.
I think, yeah, once, these cars still had shims. If you look at the door,
Yeah.
the shims. So this was part of the, try to make it look a lot more quality.
Wow. That's interesting. They'd have different lengths there, and you could put it on to kind of close the gap if this gap were big.
The vertical gap. Like if I was to close this door, there's you have to have a gap.
Right.
But you don't want a big gap to where you can see air through it.
Huh. Wow. This also has, I think yours probably has the trumpet horn, right, Wayne? This is the train horn in this car?
I think so.
Let's see here. Oh, well, I don't think you have the trumpet horn. You've only got, I think, the 2-noter.
Well, I guess
you were cheated. You should have got those.
I was cheated. I should have asked that lady when I stopped her at the post office.
Yeah.
You have a trumpet horn?
I have the trumpet horn. I have the digital cluster as well. You have the analog.
You bean counters can afford that kind of thing.
That's right. You have the fiber optic light, though, the low fuel light that comes on when you don't have gas. Although these are very fuel efficient vehicles.
Mm-hmm. They are.
Yeah, it's a really rich interior. Even this B-pillar is padded. It's not totally hard plastic.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a give to it.
Yeah, I don't fully understand but the automatic climate control.
Yeah.
It's got the features working, diagnostic.
Yes.
Diagnostic features that can tell you what's going on with your engine.
It does. Yeah, so if you, for those who have one of these, I think Cadillacs from 1982 all the way through till the mid-90s, might be 95 or 6, if you hold the off and warmer buttons together when the key is on or the engine's running, you enter diagnostic mode. And I think on this car then you hit the fuel data reset button and it'll display through the climate control everything from the manifold pressure, temperature sensor reading, to the coolant temperature sensor, to the engine RPMs, to the fuel injector pulse width, the oxygen sensor cross counts. You can all read that through the electronic climate control display, and then when you want to exit it, you just hit the auto button and it goes back to normal.
Wow, you're really into this.
Yeah, no, it comes in handy in the later ones. This is just throttle body, so there's only one central, well, there's actually 2 central injectors for the 8-cylinder, but on the port fuel injected cars, you can even shut off individual injectors. So you can see if you've got a dripping injector, if the RPM doesn't drop when you shut the injector off, it's dripping.
Well, you sure as hell don't want any dripping injectors.
No, you don't want any dripping injectors. And this was always funny. This is an electronic control that mimics a manual control, right? That the mirror, you touch it, but it's not a joystick in the sense,
it's electric.
It's an electric joystick. Yes. Similar to this I think control here too.
Right.
And I don't know why, but on this, when you lock the door, on the other General Motors cars, lock is back. But on this car, when you lock it, it pushes the rod forward. It's the opposite of all the other GM cars. Why they did that, and it even says lock forward, I think, to tell you that that's the case. I don't know why they did that on this particular car. But the previous Gen Seville had a little half-rotating thing that would rotate back and forth when you lock the door.
They probably did that because more expensive.
More expensive to yeah. The finance guys, let somebody say, well, it's more expensive the other way around. Although these door handles are the same that are shared on the X cars, the A cars. I don't know if you've ever had this problem. I haven't had it on mine yet, but they tend to break because the lock rod is in the back of this door handle. As you open and close it many times, it wears through the back of the handle and finally drops, and then this becomes inoperable.
I don't recall whether, I know I've replaced a handle on one of my cars, but I'm not sure whether it was this car or a Buick Regal that I had.
But a really handsome door panel and integrated lights. This is the Delco Bose speaker down here. Very cool.
I don't know. You're going to take a picture of that. And I got that little piece of lint off there.
I'm telling you, I mean, we're talking about this car, so the viewers are already going to be, controversial. And they even have the Cadillac logo on the floor mats, front and rear. This has no hump because it's still no hump with the front wheel drive.
Yep.
One big floor mat in the front.
Actually, this car rides pretty well, and it handles really well. That touring suspension just feels a lot more taut,
It does.
for a car of this era.
These do have relatively fast steering ratios too. I think it's a 14-to-1 steering gear that's pretty quick.
That's interesting. Cadillac gave you gold. They were gold keys.
Yes.
I think there's probably gold flashed, but it's kind of a nice touch.
Yeah. Yeah, they had the gold key delivery system back then. And you can hear it on Wayne's car, a real bell that's actually dinging.
Sound like church bells.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Nissan in the 80s had an actual record player?
Really?
Yes, that would play. This is what I was mentioning, the trim trunk hinge.
But also the bottom of the trunk.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty good size usable trunk for the 76 to 9 really didn't have any vertical height, so you couldn't put anything with any height in there.
Pretty shallow.
It's surprisingly large.
If I was a lot younger, I'd crawl in there and show you.
Yeah, do you get the question, when people ask me how many people fit in the trunk, what do you usually say? Do you tell them to crawl in, or?
Hop in, I'll count.
I usually ask whole or dismembered. This has, I think yours probably has the same, but this doesn't have a spring, a torsional spring that lifts the trunk. It's two gas struts, one on either side. It's got a little gas strut, I think, in there.
Yeah, it does.
And those gas struts tend to wear out pretty. I think this trunk is pretty heavy for the size of the strut, because they last about a year. When I first put them on, and you pop the trunk, this trunk will raise up on its own. And after about a year, it'll stay up, but it won't raise anymore. I think it's a pretty...
I've replaced these, but I don't know how long ago. Same thing for the hood.
Yes, it's gas struts.
I've replaced the hood struts a couple of times.
Well, was there anything on this car that you would say that you didn't get what you wanted, or did you think you got, from a design standpoint, what you were looking for?
Well, to take something that is this unique,
yeah,
you gotta. I gotta say that I was pretty satisfied with what I was able to get, and everything's a compromise. But I thought that we really got a lot more than I would have ever expected.
I mean, the car looks expensive too. When you pull up, it has, to your point, a presence, especially from the rear on the road.
Well, it's memorable. Somebody can't look at it and say, "Hey, that's an Oldsmobile."
Yeah. And you still have the lamp monitors that your 71 has.
Yes,
Same
fiber
trio.
optics let you know when your high beam's on, your turning light.
Yeah, these have a big cornering light here that
Yes.
illuminates. I think even they made it such that if you have the twilight sentinel on and you leave the headlights on for the extended period before they automatically shut off, if you have the turn signal on, this will stay illuminated. So if you're, like you're trying to get back into the house, and you have the twilight sentinel set to a 30-second delay.
Oh yes, that'll stay illuminated.
Yeah, if you have the left or right turn
Right.
signal on, that stays on with the headlights, which I thought was an interesting touch. These are the wheel covers that you had to redesign after
That's right.
a year.
Mhm.
Did you pick the red center? The first ones didn't have a red center, I don't think, and then went to a red center when it was redesigned.
I don't recall whether I picked it or whether Cadillac picked it, but I think it goes with the car. Call your attention to that extra wreath and crest that you paid for.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, very handsome car.
Thank you.
All right, Wayne. Well, thank you so much for showing us your personal 84 Seville here and talking about the car.
You're very welcome, Adam. It's always good talking to you.
Thanks again.
Thanks again for watching this video on Wayne's 1984 Cadillac Seville. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as that will help the YouTube algorithm serve this video up to more viewers like you. If you really liked it, feel free to hit the super thanks button, which is the heart-shaped icon with a $sign in it at the bottom right of your video browser. Until next time, be sure to check out the video thumbnails at bottom left and right for some suggestions for you. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, take care.